Gotta see what Tony TGD's gonna say. Time to listen to the Geek Getaway. Cause I might sell any geeky film games and TV shows. Maybe if we're lucky, the further expose the amigo. Hey, hey, get out of my way. There's news and views and hot takes, so you might as well stay. It's time to listen to the Geek Getaway.
What is up, meatbags? It is Gary, the obsessive compulsive gamer, and I am joined today with the skull and D-pad himself, the big dog, Carl. What is up, Carl?
Nothing much. What's up, folks?
Today, we are going to go over our Switch OLED review, what we think about the new Switch product, and how much better it is than the original and the Switch version 2.
And
How's that
talk
sound
about
to you, Carl?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the competition as well, the similarly priced version. So it's all going to be cool stuff.
All right, so let's jump into we'll talk about, you know, your experience with the original Switch in version 2. I'm not sure which versions you had.
I had every one but the Lite.
Okay, and I've played originally on my birthday a few years ago. I think it was 3 years ago now. I had the original version. I bought that used, traded that in for a V2, and then both kids have a Lite. So I've kind of dabbled in, you know, all four, and you know, I've had experience with all four of them.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. I mean, I'll be honest. I like the original. And the launch, it did not fall apart on me. And I call it the white box Switch, by the way. Mine actually, my brother has my launch Switch.
Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I had to trade that one in for the V2. Pretty much, I don't think mine fell apart on me either. To be honest with you, my original Switch version had better Joy-Cons. Now, I had this issue with my Joy-Cons where upgrading to the V2, I had interference problems with I want to say it was the blue, which I think is the left Joy-Con. I had interference problems. So when I would sit about like 10 feet away, it would just go haywire on me. And then, you know, drifting wasn't too much. Drifting wasn't too much of an issue for me. I don't know if you had that same issue, Carl.
I'll tell you, I had it, but I'll tell you what I think contributed to it. My Switch kept falling over, so I think the Joy-Cons got a little messed up. So what I ended up doing was I got me those nice neon yellow Joy-Cons.
I had a pair of those.
Those things were, up until even then, I don't know if my brother still uses his Switch, they were still active then. Right.
Yeah, and like I said, I had a pair too. Unfortunately, traded those in when Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out. I got about $65 or so for the pair of those, I think it was $62. So I ended up with like $31 a piece. I couldn't I was starting to get drift on those guys. They were working good for the longest time. I think it was just a little dust in the controllers. Other than that, they worked pretty good. But I said to myself, if I'm going to get $62 credit from GameStop, I'm going to be able to get Pokemon pretty much for free. So I went ahead with that. But aside from that, the controllers, basically, what my problems and issues that I had with the controllers. So I didn't really have any issues with the original version Switch. Going to the version 2, I had like I said, I had interference with the left one. The right one seemed to be perfectly fine, except for the fact that when you would put it into sleep mode and try to pull it out of sleep mode, the syncing on my controllers, there was maybe it was more interference, and maybe there was interference on the right controller, but I had this issue where you had to hit the button like a bunch of times to get the lights to start flashing and for it to finally wake up the system.
Which one was this?
This was the V2. For some reason, I had interference on my controllers. Now that I got my OLED, it was the first thing I kind of checked out was, is this going to be responsive and wake up my system? check, it wakes up my system, no issues. Now we'll have to see, you know, down the road when I've had this for more than 6 months, if that's still the case. Then I tested out how far my range on the controllers were. And I was, you know, I was blocking the controllers. I was more than 10 feet back. And, you know, I'm happy to report that I had no issues with the controllers, and I'm really psyched about that, because it was, you know, it was a nuisance every time you want to wake up your Switch and you're sitting there tapping the butt like, you know, what's going on. So
let me get mine out while you're doing that, so I can just hold them in my hand here. All right, yeah. So for the red, the Joy-Con, I had the Mario Red and Blue V2. And those nice red Joy-Cons worked really well. They did what they're supposed to do. Gave me a little bit of trouble as far as plugging the motherfuckers into the controller dock. And they did really well. And I tell you, it hurt. It really hurt giving up those nice Joy-Con grips that had the Mario coins on the side. Oh man.
now, Carl, have you ever had any issues with any of your Switches on the rails, like the Joy-Cons connecting and being loose? Now, I did have
no. Hey, it was for me, you know, and you know, the red.
Well,
I'll tell you.
Well, here's the thing. Do you play a lot of in handheld mode, or do you play a lot of docked?
Both. Well, I play a lot of both, and I tell you why. Because like when I'm playing in mine, I dock my TV. I dock it when I have one of those visually impaired moments where I'm having trouble seeing.
Okay, and I think it comes down to, like, I play a lot in handheld mode, so kind of taking those Joy-Cons on and off might, you know, make it a little more loose, and then that's why you end up with that little bit of that rocking sensation that a lot of people describe. Tony said, is the OLED worth it? Well, at $349.99, it's gonna be
yes.
It's gonna be up to your discretion whether or not, you know, we're sandwiched in between the Xbox and the PlayStation 5 here. But personally speaking, as a Nintendo fan, and I know a lot of people know I'm a Nintendo fanboy, there's no hiding it. I love my Nintendo. It's absolutely worth it. This was so much of an upgrade for me, at least if you're a handheld player like I am. If you're fond of things like the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance and all that good stuff, the DS. I mean, this was a no-brainer upgrade. I mean, if you loved things like the Vita, I believe the Vita was the only other system on the on the market that had an OLED in it. It's fantastic. It looks great.
Let's see. I think. Well, whatever. Now let me ask. Oh, here we go. I have one of my old Joy-Con grips that came with my red and blue. So I'm just kind of going. Honestly, there's not really any difference.
Now, are you talking about the plastic that connects both controllers, like the controller?
The ones that have the tassels or whatever.
You're talking about the just the little the little slider. Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty much identical.
Yeah, I would say that since the Joy-Cons are pretty much the same, I don't think there's anything cosmetically different about them. Now, I have seen a couple breakdowns, and I believe that there's been some repositioning of things, and that the way that they did the joystick might have removed a piece of something, and that might help on the Joy-Con drift. But for the most purpose, the controller grip that you get with the system is going to be identical, and like Carl said, the little wrist strap buttons are going to be identical. And
I'm feeling the OLED Joy-Cons in my hands, the white ones, and they really don't feel that different.
I said this to my old lady when I put them in my hands, and I think this was just because I put so much time into my V2 that my V2 ones were worn down. They were really smooth, I don't know if they were that smooth when I got them, but I definitely noticed the texture on the controllers when I got my new ones, and that just could be because they're new.
Yeah. Now I did slide them in, and there's not I mean they're still as loose as they were with the older models, with the older the red and white box versions.
Okay, well, I got my rails and the controllers going in are definitely like tight as a button. So,
yeah. So it's really quite interesting. I've heard from Kevin Kenson Wolfden, the OLED version is you are basically the rails are better though.
You know, and that's why I said I'm gonna need to definitely put some good time into it, and you know, in 6 months I can come back and verify that. I don't know if that's really gonna be changed. I hope that there is a maybe an upgrade. The biggest issue I always had with them was if you were to accidentally put your wrist straps on the wrong way, pulling them back up actually chips. Now there's like a plastic little lock-in feature on your Joy-Con, and when you pull those off, it wears it down. Wearing those down actually affects how those click in, and if they don't click in, if you've ever watched any of those videos, the Switch likes to fall straight off. Now I'm hoping that I think those pieces are still plastic, unfortunately. And there is you could go on eBay and get yourself a set of metal ones, and you know, open up your controllers and change those around if you can, which is actually quite easy. But I hope that maybe there is some kind of little modification that they might have done, hoping that those rails and the controllers stay tight up against the system, because
basically, as I understand it, the build quality for the OLED Switch is better. Everything is just better and is just better. To coin that Tom Howard joke.
Well, here's the thing. I want to talk about the cartridge slot. Do you think that the way it was on the V2 is a little bit easier for you to open, or is it a little bit harder now? Because they got rid of that little finger ridge. And for me, I haven't had any issues with opening the cartridge slot, but a couple people have talked about it.
Let's talk about the OLED screen first. You know, by merit of itself, is it worth it?
Well, it's definitely worth it, Carl.
Okay, so
let's hear your take on it.
Hold on, Dorkside said I would only buy the OLED if I was in the market to buy one. Okay, so I mean, like, as y'all know, I do have bad vision, and I go out with my dad a lot especially to make these little purchases, and he contributes. And he kind of made the point that, you know, besides the size, the screen is brighter, the darks and color saturation is better, but it's an OLED, so that's what comes with. And with this new version, you have that new setting that adjusts the color to vivid or standard.
And Dorkside, you really got to ask yourself. This is the main question you have to ask yourself is, do you play enough in handheld mode? And like I said before, I'm a huge handheld guy. I usually end up playing while sitting with the family watching TV. So for me, the handheld mode, I knew it was a no-brainer, right? I've been through the life cycle of the 3DS and the DS, and it's always been bigger is better. For me, at least. I know a lot of guys like, the light. They like the Switch Lite. You get a sharper picture with the Switch Lite. It's a more condensed picture. But that screen, when you get it in front of you, and if you've played a lot of handheld or tabletop with the V2, it's just a night and day difference. It's a night and day difference.
Yeah, y'all know I play Skyrim, and on my Switch, I played it on the old screen and the new OLED screen, and it's just so much better looking. You know, all the colors and the size, that the picture is just bigger without sacrificing anything. And that inch, it's only by, I think, like by under an inch, right?
Yeah, it's like like 0.9.
Yeah.
I think it was the V2 was like a 6.1, and this is a 7-inch screen.
Yeah.
The dork side says I never play handheld. I hate playing any console handheld. So yeah, the OLED wouldn't help me. Yeah, I would say if it's not going to be handheld, you're not really going to see much being docked, other than you are getting the Ethernet port for the LAN. And that really doesn't make that much of a difference, to be honest.
It does not make that much of a difference, because apparently you can buy the OLED dock. So, and we'll talk about the OLED dock, because I have my own thoughts on that sucker.
You know, as big of a Nintendo fan I am, I wouldn't recommend this, and I think, you know, everybody who has one and everybody who's probably done a video on YouTube all recommend this to people who are handheld players who do enough tabletop playing. It's definitely worth it to spend that money if you're looking for a system, you know, elsewhere. Xbox is good. You know, I won't say that I hate those systems. I absolutely love those, but I think for what Nintendo does, my needs, they definitely take care of me in that aspect. What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I mean, well, let me just answer this from MIDI Music. We're doing the review, a dual review discussion on the Switch OLED today. If you want to talk about Amico, you'll have to come back any other day when we have videos on. All right, so what was the question you asked me? Just sorry, my mind was scattered at the moment.
Yeah, I lost my train of threat, train of thought
okay,
too.
Then let's reset it to what Tony's here.
Nintendo takes care of Gary's needs. Yeah, definitely. They take care of all my needs. They make sure I'm finished and happy and sleeping at the end of the night.
Yeah, Nintendo really does do a good job. Yeah, we might as well talk about the dock.
All right,
let's make our way around the core hardware afterwards.
So I have the white Switch. Carl, you have the white Switch as well, right?
I do.
Do you prefer that? You know, I'm not usually a big fan of white consoles. They just tend to get dirtier quicker. You notice the yellowing.
You know,
are you a fan of that white dock over? You know, to be honest, I haven't even pulled mine out of the box yet.
I'll tell you, I love it. I love it for a few reasons. Number one, the core, when you plug that sucker in, it stays loose, so it doesn't scratch the screen up. And the back panel falls off, so you don't have to worry about.
Yes, that's nice, because it was a pain. It really was kind of a pain in the butt trying to hook up the original dock, and like I said, I haven't pulled mine out of the box yet, so I haven't tinkered too much with it. I just been playing in handheld mode. But from everything that I did see, it looked like a definite upgrade over the original.
Yeah, the LAN port is nice as well if you use that sort of thing. Apparently, there's some kind something they did with the battery life with the dock. So I have no idea if that's true or not. So
I'm pretty sure they dug and maybe data mined. There is support possibly in the future for some kind of 4K kind of setup or something like that. They did data mine that, I believe, out of that. Unfortunately, right now as it stands, there's no support for that at this moment, but that could be something coming in the future. Hopefully we'll see something down the line, right?
But honestly speaking, in my opinion, I think that's probably, you're just better off waiting for the next gen instead of getting like some new. I mean, maybe they're gonna have the new one use the old docks and the present architecture, so like Microsoft does with the current Xboxes. so they can use that 4K stuff. I
Right.
have no idea though. So the core unit has 64 gigabytes of default storage space. I remember you mentioning you don't really have a huge memory card.
Now, yeah, so basically V2 had 32 gigs. The upgrade from this was another 32 gigs. Now, obviously you get 64 gigs here, and then I believe it comes out to like 58 with like the OS or whatever that's running. So you don't get the total 64, just like most devices. From the start, I was maxed out on my V2. I had a separate, I want to say it was a 32 gig card, I believe, in my little micro SD. So I was maxed out. The upgrade definitely was nice to have that little bit of extra storage. I was able to manage, to fit on a few more games that I've already had waiting, because I've had to kind of cycle through some stuff. So basically, getting that extra 32 gigs has helped. What do you think, Carl?
Note to Tony, add a 512 gigabyte card for Gary onto that shopping list. I use the 64 for patches and stuff like that. I have a 512 myself, as you probably just guessed, and it works really well for me.
Go say that again, Carl. I kind of dipped out. I didn't really hear you.
I said Tony needs to add a 512 card for you onto that shopping list. And
I was actually thinking about doing a 128 gig. I really don't need a giant card, only because I am a physical collector. So most of the time,
okay, that's a valid point. That's a valid point.
Yeah, most of the time, I'm getting physical games, and I really only need it for games that don't come out physically, and usually those are like the retro modern titles, and those are usually, they aren't like memory hogs. I think it boils down to, if you need a memory card, it's definitely because you're playing the bigger games. If you're going to port the old Xbox type games and stuff like that, you can get up to like 20, 30, 40 gig downloads. And yeah, if you're into like getting those older games, which I do have a few, and that's kind of why I ate up a good chunk of my space, I would definitely recommend picking up another memory card for it. Ninja Kitty here says Gary likes those retro games that don't take up much storage. Yeah, I'm a huge sucker for that retro modern type of game.
Retro reimagined. Just call them retro reimagined.
There you go. But
thanks for contributing that, Tommy Tallarico. We appreciate it.
So where are you on space? I mean, how do you feel about the extra space? I know you like to have like your games like Skyrim and Kingdoms of Amalur.
I have a mix of digital and physical, but let me get mine here, and I'll tell you how much space I have. All right. Let's see here. Give me a moment. I'll tell you how much I have here. Wait.
I definitely feel like...
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Free space. 443. So I still have a lot.
You have 443 megabytes?
Gigabytes.
Oh, what size card did you put in there, Carl?
512, baby.
Oh, okay. So he's got the extra micro SD card in there. Have you filled up your internal memory?
No, I don't use that. I only use that for like patches and stuff like that, for system patches.
Okay, and
So
you know, if you're kind of new to you know, the Nintendo Switch, what's a nice feature about that is you can kind of like, you know, back and forth. I don't remember if
yeah,
you could do that with like 3DS and other stuff, but being able to
you couldn't
manage, you
do that
know,
with the. Yeah, it's Well, I mean, like, and here's the deal. If you are doing retro, if you're just buying retro games, or more specifically, any game older than the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, you're going to be fine.
yeah, Dorkside says, "Damn, Carl, you got the big card." Yeah, he's got a pretty.
I
That's
did.
a pretty sizable card. That should, you know, take care of your needs, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
on getting those games. I don't really think you need a bigger card than that. Now, obviously, if you buy a lot of games, I would say you could go and do kind of like Rich did. I remember Rich saying that he bought I think a terabyte or something like that for his
No, no.
Switch.
I'll tell you a story. And I was back when I was considering what memory card to buy my Switch. Geeks with Cash mentioned something to me. He told me that, and since he works in the tech space, I do give him credit for this. Uh, um, he told me that they have a higher rate of decay.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I did hear a little bit about like you know, you got to be careful with the you know, the higher sized cards because it might not function well with the Switch, but some, you know, some were working and then others might not. I think it might come down to a, you know, which brand might be a little bit more quality. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure on that, but having those big size cards it's nice, but it's not necessary. You know, there
No.
is plenty of space on the you know, the Switch OLED.
If you're buying the retro games,
Right,
or you
retro
don't
modern is
buy,
small enough.
or if you just buy one or two, a small handful of first party games, you'll probably be okay.
Yeah, I have noticed. I will be honest. I have noticed Nintendo doing a lot more updates in this day and age. Pokemon had gotten, I believe they're on their second or third patch, and these patches aren't, you know, some of the times these patches aren't relatively small patches. They can, you know, be anywhere from a couple gigs to, you know, 10 gigs. So it is unfortunate that we're in the day and age where those patches are starting to take up a lot of our memory, and I think this is kind of driving people nuts. They just want, you know, products finished and ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
pushed out the door. And I think this is a main reason for it, right? You got so much limited
Yeah.
space these days, and then when Nintendo's throwing, you know, 10 gig file sizes at you to update, it's kind of a bummer because it taxes your memory, but usually it's kind of 50-50 on
Yeah.
that.
I've heard. I had the Pokemon Sword with the expansion pass built in.
Yes, size really does
So
matter, dork size.
yes, it really does. So you didn't need to patch the game. You could just load the game in, and right away, and you're ready to go.
Now, did you ever have The Witcher, Carl?
Oh no, I had it on the Xbox, and I just couldn't get into it.
What was your
But
like what's your biggest game that you got? Like what's your most like Kingdoms of Amalur? Is that like a really big download, and do they have any kind of, you know, big patches for that game?
Oh, actually, Kingdoms of Amalur really didn't require that big of a download.
Oh, well, that's surprising.
No,
I mean, it is kind of
it requires just a small patch, a tiny update, and you're ready to go. Looks fantastic on the Switch. I know you don't like the game, but I'm just, as far as that goes, Skyrim really hasn't had any big updates. It doesn't. I don't think.
What's Skyrim sit at? Around like a 20 gig, 30 gig game? Because I know my BioShock and Borderland games are around you know, 20 to 30 gigs. Usually,
Let me find out. See if I can find out here.
This is going to take up about a third of your space if you're, you know, like I said, you got 64 gigs on the OLED. minus a few for all the stuff they already got crammed on there. But it allows you, it's a lot of space. It's good enough for someone who's a casual gamer. If you're more into buying games and you're hardcore where you got to have all your titles, you're definitely going to want a memory, a micro SD card on this thing.
Man, it's soft. Let's see. This tells me how much. I don't think this really tells me how. Oh, here it is. This tells me how much they require here. Okay, so Knights of the Old Republic is 12 gigabytes.
Golo 13 says the Switch really needs a Karma engine. Oh, forgot about Mario Kart. Yeah, that's pretty much the Karma engine, isn't it?
Give me a minute. I'm checking. A lot of these. Really, damn. Skyrim does not only requires takes up 211 megabytes.
You sure that's not just a?
No, this tells. I'm in the software menu.
You sure that's not the save data, Carl?
No, I'm in the manage software panel at the moment. My largest game is literally Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
So with that said, Carl, let's jump to the next topic. Let's talk about. Yeah. Have you noticed the enhanced audio? Now, right out of the box, I'm going to tell you this personally.
Yes.
I have been starting to go deaf in my older age. I don't hear as well as I used to. That's probably from years of listening to things so loud in the car and playing video games with headsets on at full blast. But right out of the box, I definitely noticed that, and what's weird is I could have swore that I watched somebody do a sound meter or whatever on the Switch OLED, and that they said that there wasn't really any enhanced audio, wasn't no increased volume. But I have to tell you, for me personally, it seemed like there was at least, it's like up a notch. Like, it might not be too much, but I could have swore it's definitely a slight bit louder. And for some reason, I don't understand how they've managed to do this. It sounds like that volume comes right out of the screen. Those speakers are where they're positioned is in such a weird positioning that maybe it's just me, but personally, the audio sounds fantastic out of this thing.
Now my dad is a musician, so it definitely he's kind of the guy I like to bring with me whenever I want to do headphone testing at the stores and stuff like that. He definitely noticed a difference, and Wolfden, he also, well, at least some of the reviewers, one or a few at least, mentioned that it's just better.
So Ninja Kitty says maybe it's clearer audio, Gary. It definitely could be cleaned up. Those speakers were kind of tinier on the Switch version 2. There's something about the audio, though. It's definitely enhanced. They definitely didn't lie about that. I noticed it right out of the box that it sounded better. And when I fired up a few games that were already kind of loud to begin with, it did seem like I got a little bit of a boost. Now, I have one particular game that I popped in because the audio on it was so low from the get-go, and it was a disappointment. It was the Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That game's audio from the get-go on the Switch, and I bought the physical version, was insanely low.
Dude, that's not just on the... That is not just on the Switch. I had the game on my Xbox. It is that low. The only way I could...
Okay. Well, here's the thing, Carl. Are you talking Xbox 360? Because I do have the version for 360.
No.
And I didn't have a problem with the original. Right. And I think there was something that happened within the port when they ported this over, because obviously it was originally on the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360. I never had an audio issue. Well, then again, I was rocking the game on, surround sound system. So, I mean, it could have been something. But on TV back in the day, it was nice and loud.
I'll tell you what I did to fix that. I plugged in my headphones. Works like a charm.
Well, there you go. And
it's properly loud.
I put in the earbuds, and it's. See, that's the problem, though, man. I'm just going deaf, and it's just not loud enough for me. I want to blow my eardrums out.
You're going deaf. I'm going blind. It happens.
Welcome to old age.
All we need is someone, Tony or Blinded Braille, to lose their voice. So.
And what's up, Blinded?
And we'll have all of them.
But definitely, I think we can both agree that there is an enhanced audio with this. I noticed it. Maybe I'm just being partial. I don't know, but I definitely noticed a little bump in quality, whether that be a little bit of raised volume, or like Ninja Kitty said, that maybe it's just a little bit clearer, and it definitely sounds better.
Yeah, this is the way I describe the OLED. Everything feels like it's better. You don't know how, but it just is.
But Carl, is it the placebo effect? Is it that you spent that $350 that you're just wanting it to feel more quality?
No, because of the way because I overpaid on my Redbox Switch. That's how I know the placebo effect doesn't matter to me.
Well, I will agree with Carl. I do think that the I don't really mess with the buttons too much on top, because I usually pull up that little in-game menu on the screen to adjust the brightness and the volume and all that stuff. And I usually put my Switch into sleep mode, so I never really ever turn it off. So I'm not messing with those buttons.
I use those buttons quite a bit, and there's definitely a difference here. And I mentioned this when I was doing my initial review here, that like they elongated the power button, and they sunk in, and I don't know why they did this, and I hate that they did this, but they sunk in the volume buttons. They're not as the volume buttons on top are not as pronounced.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't use them that often, so I don't really have a take on it.
That little notch for the cartridge cover, it's still there.
Oh, is it? It's just there's something there. I don't know if it's because they squared it. I think they squared the little flap. There's a little slight difference, and I couldn't tell you right offhand because I don't have my original V2, but there is a slight difference. But I haven't found that it was it didn't mess with me opening it like a few other YouTubers were talking about.
Oh, and you know what? The grill at the top, it definitely feels different. It's like I said, everything just feels different.
Feels more premium.
Yeah. Even the plastic on the back.
And here's the thing. I will say you transitioned beautifully into this, because I will notice if you actually hold up, and I don't know if it's like this on the V2, I looked close up at the back of my OLED, and there's like this shimmer sparkle, like this. I don't know what they added into that molding, the plastic in the back, but there is this like shimmer sparkle that comes off of it. I know your eyes are not the greatest, Carl, to see it, but I don't know if the original V2 Switch or the original Switch and the V2 had this, but there is something mixed in with that plastic that just shimmers, and I really noticed it when I was checking out my system. Maybe someone could tell us.
Give me one moment.
Blinded says, but the OLED is a massive setup from the original. Step up? I think he meant step up. It definitely is. The OLED is by far, as much as I hoped it be. Definitely playing BioShock, and I've gone through BioShock probably 10 hours in the last few days since I've had the OLED, and I'm absolutely loving. I mean, it's what you get with an OLED, right? The deep blacks, the lucid colors, like Carl mentioned before. The saturation, and that's the thing on HD TVs. I always was one of those guys who liked to turn up the colors so that they would pop a little bit more. I know that hurts some people's eyes, where it's kind of it burns your eyes a little bit, but that was always the thing that I would do on my TVs. And it was an instant, I noticed it when I had viewed this at Target, around Christmas time. And I knew I always wanted to pre-order a Switch OLED, but when I had that and seen that thing in person, I knew I had to have it. It's just the videos don't do it justice, right? The reviews don't do it justice.
It's something you got to see with your,
Yeah, Blinded's right here. Blinded says the best game on OLED is Mario Kart 8 and Metroid Dread. And I will say the demo that I played at Target was Mario Kart 8. And I actually had the old lady, which they had a Switch Lite next to it. I said, pull up Mario Kart 8. I want to see the differences between the two. And oh my God. Yeah,
you did that too.
Gorgeous. Yes.
I did that too. And I was saying, Mario Kart 8 is an insanely colorful game. And I want to borrow something here from the Amica fan crowd. It's to really understand how good the Switch OLED is. You've got to have it in your hands. You've got to see it in real life.
You really do. You really do, because for the week leading up to me getting the Switch OLED, I watched video over video, and I knew I was going to get it because I had seen it in person. But after looking at it at Target and then coming back and seeing people do
those colors, that
you just
sound.
Can't see it on camera, right? It just has to be experienced. If you're a Nintendo fan, I couldn't recommend it anymore. That screen just pops, and that little bit of getting rid of the borders is.
Let's talk about that kickstand.
It's awesome. Oh, the kickstand. The kickstand is fantastic. Fantastic upgrade from what it was.
I'll tell you something about myself. Up until before the OLED, I never really used the kickstand. I never really put my console in tabletop.
Well, basically, handheld is. See, I conflate the two because they're pretty much the same for me. Yeah. I'm with Carl. I never used the original kickstand, but I knew it was a piece of garbage. Okay.
I mean,
I'll be honest it served its purpose. It worked, but a slight breeze would blow that thing over.
Here's the thing. I'll tell you what I used it for: memory card protector.
Yeah, you have to, right? But pretty much, I had a hybrid case, and the reason I had the hybrid case was because I don't like to. If you look at a lot of people's Switches that have heavy use, if you're not washing your hands and handling your Switch really nice, you'll end up getting that. You'll wear the finish off the back. So I always had the hybrid cover, which protects the back of the Switch. So I didn't really use that kickstand. Plus the hybrid cover actually it sits on these ridges so that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And speaking of, I do want to bring up one other point after we talk about the kickstand. That's kind of interesting at the bottom. So the kickstand, I actually like that. You can just pull it out. It doesn't require much force.
No, and what's nice is it doesn't really. I think it just settles in. I don't really think it clips in. Which is another nice feature about it, is that you're not kind of tugging on it because you don't really want to break it and you want to handle it with care. It just kind of has a little bit of force on you, just a little bit of force, little feet. Look, it's got a little bit of pushback, but it's nice. It definitely adjusts to anywhere you want to position it so that you can stand it on any angle. And I think it works really nice. Having it the full length of the Switch makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and you can adjust. It's really good in the way you can just adjust it in about any position. So that's really nice. Also, did you notice at the bottom of your Switch?
Yes, I know where you're going with this. They put rubber feet.
They put feet on.
Yep, I knew where he was going with this. It's absolutely fantastic that they put little rubber feet on the bottom of the system, which is great because now, if they figured a lot of people might be upgrading because of the stand, not just because of the stand, obviously the screen, the enhanced audio and whatnot, but putting those two little rubber feet was, it's small. It seems like it's a stupid thing.
You read me like a book.
Perfect. Yes, the two little rubber feet at the bottom were a nice touch. That's so you don't scratch your system while you're playing in tabletop.
It's so amazing, and it's like they looked at the last two and were trying to they're trying to make the general handheld experience overall better.
I mean, and this is what I love about Nintendo. I know I'm a fanboy, but it's these little things that right. they just get right, and they usually know what they're doing when they re-release these systems. Nintendo's the best at it, man. Nintendo is the best at getting you to buy the same system 3 to 4 times in their life cycle. And it's the little things. It's like, yeah, I always knew going into buying a Switch 3 years ago, I was like, I know Nintendo's going to do it. They're going to make the bigger screen. They're going to get rid of the bezels. But I couldn't wait. I had to have that Switch. And then when the V2 came out, I said, damn it. I was like, the Switch is beautiful. It's nice. It works great. But the battery life. And they got me to buy a V2 simply on the battery. And then the OLED came out, and it was like, well, they did what you said they were going to do 3 years ago. They got rid of that bezel. And, it's one of those things where I know they make you spend. But if you're smart,
it's okay. It's okay to do that, though, with the Nintendo stuff, because it's just they're quality products.
Well,
by the way, Gary, we're a Nintendo family, too.
Yeah, we definitely are.
My dad is a huge Nintendo fan.
Yeah, a lot of people are, man. It's you grow up with it, and I'm starting to train these kids that Nintendo's great. I mean, Microsoft and Sony have their place. I won't say bad stuff about them, but I think in this day and age, for my gaming needs, I think Nintendo takes care of me perfectly.
But they're tone deaf as hell. They're tone deaf as hell.
I wouldn't say that completely. I mean, there are things that fans of the Xbox and the PlayStation will say that
All right. Well. Okay. Let's take.
Go ahead.
I'll give you an example. Save games on the Xbox. Save games are handled over the cloud. Like Skyrim, for example. So if you cannot connect to the internet on your Xbox and you want to play in your Fallout or Skyrim save, you're SOL. But on the Switch, I can play Skyrim right away. It doesn't require an internet connection.
And I'll tell you what, Carl. Unfortunately, I think Nintendo will be there at some point. It's just the way of. Excuse me. It's just the way of it. I think that's just the way that companies are moving towards in the future. So before we go all gung, but right now, yes, Carl's right. I think it's a nice to not have to jump online or switch some stuff around. It's always a hassle when all you want to do at the end of the night is play a video game, and then you're like, oh, you got some kind of error message popping up telling you look, you got to download this or do that.
One time I wanted to play the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox, and it would not let me play because it got locked into sync mode. I don't have that problem on my Switch.
Yeah, so
I don't have the problem.
I definitely agree with Carl, though. Nintendo doesn't have. I mean, there are some issues like playing BioShock. I did notice that when you play through that collection, and this doesn't have to really do with Nintendo per se, but when you go to start that up, and if you are connected online, it will give you an error message. And I think that's because they're trying to hook up to the 2K website or servers or whatever, and they're trying to get that information. So you get a little error pop up, but it's not that's not every game. I noticed that just on BioShock. So, but Carl's right here. It's a nice luxury, and especially cartridges. If I could pick between cartridges and discs, I'll go cartridges almost every day. I think it's so much nicer to just pop in that little cartridge over messing with a disc and then possibly scratching up those discs and then disc rot in the future. So that's my personal take on it.
I mean, I also like the way Nintendo basically baby-proof their cartridges.
Oh yeah,
by
they put
making
that
them
little
taste
oily.
bad.
Yeah, they put that little oily substance on there, so no
I
little
mean,
kids are sticking it in their mouth.
who does that? Who
Hey
makes the
Lorenzo, what's going on?
who actually considers making the cartridges baby proof?
Ninja Kitty says you can disable the cloud saves from the Xbox. I'm not too
I have
familiar with.
no idea how to do that.
I think I've done that in the past, but Carl's right. Like, Xbox and I don't know too much about PlayStation because the last one I really had was a PlayStation 3. I still have that Slim, but
the only
with
thing, yeah,
Xbox has always been kind of a pain in the. I'll agree with Carl. If you're not navigating the system, which is a pain in the butt, and you find that, and you're just plugging it in and playing it, maybe someone who's more unexperienced. And I guess, for all my, gaming experience that I have, I'm with Carl. Maybe I didn't know that. Maybe I did tinker with that a little bit, but I have, come across that messing with Xbox and stuff. You had to connect to online, and you don't really know what's going on. But you don't have to worry about that with Nintendo. Nintendo has its updates, but you really don't get like kicked or told that you need to do a particular task to play your games. So that is there. I mean, for someone who might be gaming illiterate and not understand what's going on, there is a little bit more ease with Nintendo's accessibility.
The only problem, and let's talk about accessibility.
Well, it's great to have you on, Lorenzo.
The accessibility, I like the fact that the Nintendo actually has a zoom feature that's so easy to understand.
Right. Yeah. You go in, you click that. If you're, you manage your system settings, and it's right there.
Yeah.
If you need that little extra zoom.
I mean, maybe it does. Let me log on my Switch or Xbox, but yeah, you basically and a friend of mine who has worse vision than me told me about it, and it's kind of nice when you want to start using it.
It crops, right? It crops the screen, but it does help if you need that little bit of boost. Now, is that like that zoom feature? That zoom feature is just strictly for the like the page, right? Where
it's for the games.
Is it for the games?
It's for the games. Yeah,
because
totally.
I've noticed it. I've turned it on once or twice, but I haven't really needed it. My vision's not terrible.
So I am going to the accessibility tab. Let's see here. They have a color filter mode, contrast mode, captioned. They have a magnifier. Let's see how easy the sucker is.
Ninja Kitty says the Xbox saves the games locally and then makes a copy on the cloud. So basically, you have a local and a cloud copy. Yeah, and unfortunately, when it came to like Xbox One, I was so kind of like out of the loop. I got my Xbox One like near its end of its life cycle, and then obviously I don't have a Series X or Xbox One X or any of that stuff. So I have been getting older and losing the understanding how to navigate those systems. I think Xbox and Microsoft could do a better job of having a better system in place to be navigated a little bit easier.
Yeah.
For those of us who don't go through everything as much.
Yeah, see, here's the problem I have with the magnifier mode on them. Xbox, it's not as intuitive.
Yeah,
it feels clunky.
It feels clunky.
Yeah. It feels clunky. And
so how do you feel about like Nintendo's setup? Do you like how they have like just your bar of games and you can go all the way over and then
you mean carousel mode? I like carousel mode.
And now,
I like carousel mode, but I'll tell you one thing.
A lot of people are asking for like files. Do you think they should have like a file system? Or a folder system.
Groups wouldn't be such a bad idea.
I definitely wish they would add folders just for other people who might want that. But what they really need to add are themes.
Gifting.
What do you think, Carl? Yeah,
themes.
Gifting and themes.
Gifting and themes. Themes, they would make so much money in a heartbeat.
And I'm kind of surprised, being I was a big 3DS guy, that they didn't do that from the start. I don't know why. Yeah, they could have been making so much money on themes, but
they would make so much, like Metroid themes and Mario themes and Zelda themes. You can already pick the gamer pick. Why can't you just pick a theme?
yeah, and they really do have a nice option of player icons that you can pick from and customize the way you want it with different colors. It is a shame that they don't have any themes, and at this point in the life cycle, I don't really see them bringing those out, unfortunately. But let's move on to
Yeah.
let's move on to what do we got left? So we covered the screen. We think the screen's fantastic. We've covered the audio. We think that's fantastic. It's definitely have a premium feel.
I kind of want to talk a bit about the difference between. I know it's kind of part of the whole screen thing, but the way like games. The way games are easier to see.
Well, I definitely think we covered that, Carl. I think that you've made it pretty clear that with your vision that the colors definitely pop. I think that like you said, like I think yesterday too, you even alluded to
Pokemon Snap on the older Xboxes is washed out, but on this,
on the Switch,
it's just easier to see.
Yeah, on the Switch is definitely washed out.
Let's see, hardware. I mean, we don't really need to talk about the hardware all that much, and
yeah, so you're really not getting anything special other than a little bit of the enhanced audio, the kickstand, the little rubber feet on the bottom, a little bit of a different placement with the buttons. The controllers we said feel pretty tight.
I mean, in comparison, like the Series S as opposed to the Series X, there's far more of a difference. As you get natural 4K resolution, you get more space out of the box with the Series X. With the PlayStation 5 all digital, it's just the PlayStation 5 without a disc reader. That's all it is.
Right. So I think yeah, I think definitely that Nintendo has its place. You get what you get with those bigger consoles. But the Switch going from the version 2 to the OLED. Let's wrap it up, Carl. And what would you give the OLED in today's day and age? What kind of score do you think? Where are you at with the overall on it? And then would you recommend it?
Okay, so I'm gonna rate all three of the models I've had, and then and give my opinion afterwards. So the white box Switch, I would probably give a 7 as of this point. It was nice, but my Joy-Cons went bad on me, had to replace them. The red box I got because of the battery life. And
I'm on the same boat on that one.
Battery life, and that's about that's about it. I'd give that an 8, and the OLED I would give a 9.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I think I'm pretty close to you in that assessment. I think that the maybe starting off the original Switch was great. It was fantastic when I got mine. But then when the V2 came out and that better battery life, it gives you another I think it was about an hour and a half of battery time. You went from about 2 hours to almost 2.5, 4 hours, and it all depends on whether or not you're using the high settings, the highest brightness and whatnot. But it definitely helped me out as someone who usually plays with the highest settings. I think Carl's right here. I think that the original system might have been like an 8. I think it gets kicked down a peg because of the V2 and the OLED. And the same thing works for the V2. Just because the OLED's out.
7, 8, 9.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to steal that one too. I think it's a 7, 8, 9.
And I tell you this much: if there were other people I knew who, other people I knew, if they had the money, who have visual problems, I would definitely recommend it to them. I say if you have bad eyesight and the money to, and you like playing games, you practically need the OLED because, in my opinion, this is just my assessment. As a picture gets smaller, it looks better.
Well, yeah, it's definitely sharper, but that text, like you said, when you're playing a game that has tiny text, it doesn't help at all. And I think it definitely is a major step up on the OLED. Definitely a step up.
Three Houses, I could not play that game because of the text. Even on dock mode, it was eensy weensy itty bitty, microscopic teeny. But this is definitely the more superior choice for people with who have eyesight similar to my own, maybe hearing similar to yours.
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely a step up in audio, whether it's clear, like Ninja Kitty said, or maybe they did, boosted ever so slightly, but there seemed to me like there was an upgrade. I think Carl, mentions it perfectly. Like if your eyes are getting kind of, going bad on you, I think this is definitely the way to go. I think if you're, a tabletop or a handheld user, this is definitely an upgrade for you.
If you're going deaf as Beethoven, it's the one for you.
The Nintendo fanboy in me says I highly recommend it to anybody who's a Nintendo fan.
You get that Nintendo quality. I mean, it's not like with the Xbox, the controllers might break or the PS5 controllers might break if you threw them against the wall, but I wouldn't feel as. My only concern would be losing the Joy-Cons because they're so damn small.
Reyes says, I love my OLED. Playing Pokemon and Monster Hunter stories on it looks great. And yeah, Pokemon is like, because I put about 100 hours into it on my V2, and I've only just begun on my OLED, but
oh man,
what a world of difference it makes.
Really good
it does.
On that.
It looks really good.
Screen.
And I am dying to play Monster Hunter Stories. That I had the original for the 3DS. That was a great game, so I am kind of dying to get into the second one. But I think with that, I think we covered all our bases. So it's definitely a double thumbs up for me and Carl. I think we absolutely love our Switch OLEDs. We would recommend them to you.
I would like to do more of these in the future. Like if we happen to buy the same product, the same time frame, to do one of these. I think we definitely got to do this in the future.
Yeah, and Reyes says here, I voted it was worth the $350, but I bet it'll go down to $299 with the downloadable game for the holidays. That would be nice if it goes down to $299. That would be a steal for anybody looking to get into the Switch.
Even $325 would be something.
Yeah, if there's a price cut at all, and it includes like a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that would be a fantastic deal.
Or even better, like the $350. Just include $350 just for a bundle.
And that's probably what I would guess that they would do, is maybe bundle it with a game down around Christmas time. That would be probably the way they would go. $350 with
Metroid Dread.
Metroid Dread.
Metroid Dread and all those other games, and it's maybe I'll try to play the demo, see how because I remember playing the game and I'm suck at platforming. But maybe I'll try it. Maybe we'll try the demo.
All right. Well, that sounds good, and I think we covered our bases. And
I don't think we have anything else to talk about.
Yeah, I think we're empty in the tank. And with that, I'm gonna say thanks to everybody in the chat that hung in there with us. I appreciate you being here with us, talking about the Switch OLED. And with that, with the Geek Getaway, me and Carl are out this bitch.
Maybe we can talk about Pokemon. Maybe me and you can talk about, like, were you interested in picking up Arceus? What are your thoughts about it? Oh.